That's the sound of fighter jets over Poland last night. The war in Ukraine is expanding. Putin just triggered NATO. Was it on purpose? Poland shot down Russian drones in its own airspace, the first NATO intercept of the war. That's a line we haven't crossed before. Russia's launching almost 1,000 drones a night, plus ballistic missiles. Was this overspill or a deliberate provocation to test NATO? Poland called it Article 4, the yellow light, consultations. Article 5 is the red light, mutual defense. That's when we get in. We're not at war, but the rules just changed. The question now, what's our response? Do we hold the line or risk flashing a green light to Russia? This administration has an additional incentive, I think, to downplay it because they don't want it. They don't want it to be a big story because they're letting Putin do whatever he wants.
Yeah, but drones over Poland, that's a fairly big item no matter why they're there.
Poland calls this an act of aggression. Do you believe this would have happened if the U.S. had been putting more pressure on the aggressor?
Ooh,
I think Putin is mocking President Trump's peace efforts and
that's a pretty strong word for the foreign minister of a country to say that Putin is mocking Trump. That's almost barnyard epithet for a diplomat.
Threats to international peace
during countries during the full-scale war in Ukraine, but it is the first time that multiple drones deep into a neighboring country's
they're just cranking up.
airspace.
The undersecretary is going through Poland's complaint.
That force was used by Poland and its NATO allies to neutralize the perceived threat. A court stated that some of the drones entered from Belarus. The Belarusian Ministry of Defense claimed that the Russian drones were deflected by counter-drone measures of Ukrainian forces and veered off course. Belarus stated that it had alerted Poland and Lithuania as drones approached their airspace.
See that? Isn't it interesting
by the Polish military?
The Russian
Belarus
position,
also reported
which she just
that its
quoted
air
as saying they went off
intercepted
course,
several drones over its
is the same as Trump's position,
Following the incident,
who said
Poland
it's
introduced
a mistake.
air traffic
Isn't it interesting?
in the eastern
Nobody on the Western side of this equation in Europe or anywhere else says that. Only two people say that, Putin and Trump, that it was a mistake.
Russia had no intention
Wonder
of
how that
targeting any
happened.
targets on the territory of Poland.
They
Authorities
have
reported
Siamese
military
brains.
accounts during the same time
Yeah,
period,
seems like it.
and I quote, massive strike with long-range land-based, sea-based,
But anyway,
and
I was
air-based
looking over what
high-precision
they've got
weapons,
for evidence
as well
so
as
far.
attack drones against the
I mean, they
Ukrainian
found
Defense Ministry
debris
in western Ukraine.
on Polish soil for
The Russian
17
Federation also
Russian-made
expressed their
drones.
readiness
So
to
they've
hold
got them on the ground in
consultations
Poland.
with
So
authorities on the
whether it
matter.
was intentional or a mistake, the fact is we
Following the
know for a
incident,
fact
Yeah,
Poland
they got
signed
Russian
pieces.
4
on
of
the
North
ground.
Atlantic
So
Treaty,
we got that much
which led to consultations among the
technology
Belgorod
they've
and
got to
Donetsk region.
detect the
A guided
navigation of
bomb
things,
reportedly struck a
that there were
group of
any
mostly
navigation
elderly
errors.
civilians waiting for pension
So,
payments, killing
but
at
yeah,
least
the
24 and injuring 18. On
I was
7
talking to
September,
our prosecute
attacks
my
across
cousin, our
Kiev,
former federal
Zaporizhia,
prosecutor friend, and
Lviv, Odessa, Sumy,
she is
and
noting
Chernihiv
all this stuff
killed and
that
injured civilians
that
and damaged
Kash
civilian
Patel and
infrastructure.
Trump and all are saying
Among
about
those killed was a woman
the
with a
case.
newborn
Trump's already
child
got
in
him
Kiev.
sentenced to death. That she said
In
it's just going to
Central
make life
Kiev,
miserable for
a
the
government
prosecutors.
building housing
There was
Because they're
another
prejudging the case.
prosecutor on
Prime Minister was
MSNBC
struck for the first
and
time since the start of
saying
the war,
exactly the same
making
thing.
it
And
further
I remember
escalate.
thinking Carolyn would have a few choice words
Yeah.
to say about it.
Yeah.
You know, because
Yeah,
she was
she-
talking about having to wall off all of this commentary to put together a case and them making it almost impossible to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because we do have this little thing we call presumption of evidence, and while the average pundit doesn't have to follow that rule, the heads of government and the prosecutors and the head of the Department of Justice and the president are sort of held to that standard.
But on trail mix, they're getting into this discussion, me included, about guns in our childhood and how they were handled and the
Yeah.
differences between the generations.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking a lot about my own background when I was reading that, and it's one thing that comes when I see all this talk about how the emotional trauma of, and I don't discount it, of kids seeing this violence there. I mean, literally, the first thing I remember from watching television was watching Oswald shot live on TV. That was pretty shocking. I don't know. I don't really think I was emotionally damaged by it, but it was pretty horrible.
No, I put up a link to a blog I wrote called Starting Out about that period from 1962 through 1963 and everything that was going on. And of course, the Kennedy assassination and the Oswald shooting by Ruby.
And the thing is, I was thinking, somebody would say, well, yeah, but today's different because with the internet, these kids can see these things over and over again, whatever. But although in that, and when I saw Oswald get shot live on TV, and of course the Kennedy assassination, but that was anyway. We didn't have the internet, but we only had 3 channels, and they replayed it hundreds and hundreds of times. So I don't know. I think you still were getting maybe nearly as much as exposure then, because in those days they didn't protect people from video.
I think the difference is that we knew. I don't know whether it's having so many more people these days, but we knew it was happening over there. It was a distance. Now a school gets shot up in Colorado, and it feels like a school getting shot up in your neighborhood.
Yeah, that's the interesting part. I mean, that's a more direct threat going forward than anything we might hear from, than like the assassination of a movement leader. I mean, mass shootings in a random school is, if we're likely at all to experience anything, it would be more that.
And news was 1 hour a night.
Yeah.
It wasn't 24-hour cycle repeating over and over and over again, hammering the events into your consciousness. So it just feels so much more present.
Yeah.
But never on such a scale. Slovenia strongly condemns this incursion.
So maybe they are traumatized by it, feeling as if just stepping outside your door could be hazardous to your health.
Yeah.
They are aggressive.
Yeah. Well, and you've got kids going through the drills at school for school shooting to prepare for it, to defend against it.
Well,
and I've noticed
to hide under our desk from the atom bomb.
Yeah, I mean, in Florida, I was in school in Florida during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and they literally were. I remember that, being taught to how to deal with a nuclear attack, which my dad had a funny way of explaining how it wasn't a big deal, because he said that in Florida, we were in Orlando, he said, we're so close to Cuba that the missiles will go over our heads. to like
This escalation
northern
comes at a
states,
moment
you know,
when there
and
had
so
been
they can't name them at Florida because they're long range
Instead of
missiles.
talks at
So,
Istanbul,
I remember when I was a kid,
post-Anchorage
and I was
period
thinking,
has
well, that
become
makes sense. I feel
synonymous
better.
with massive strikes. We are witnessing attacks on civilians and infrastructure, including diplomatic premises and government buildings, at scales not seen since the
Yeah,
start
so
of the war.
Slovenia here is an interesting
Colleagues,
case
such behavior is a direct
because
threat not only to the security of the EU citizens,
Putin's trying to
but also regional
politically
stability and
take
international
over
peace.
Slovenia and
The
Estonia.
path down the road Russia is choosing today leads
So I guess he's taken the position that this is pretty serious. One of the Baltic state
sees this
leaders
irresponsible
got in
behavior,
trouble for not
commit to
taking
an
it as
immediate
seriously. One of the
ceasefire,
Putin puppets,
and
I
to
think it was
start
in
serious
Estonia.
and meaningful peace negotiations. We firmly stand with Poland, Ukraine, or any other
then.
member of this organization
I
who
really
needs to
think
be
they should
protected
just bring Ukraine
unlawful,
into NATO.
tampering actions
Just
Yeah,
of members
slap Putin up the side of the head. Okay.
give them right
yeah.
and
I mean,
impunity. Thank you.
Biden was on such a roll
Representative
when he got
Slovenia for the
Finland, and
statement. I now give the floor
there were
to
two others. Who were the two others
Denmark.
that he got into NATO? He added three countries or two countries, I guess.
Mr. President, Denmark fully supports
Norway
Poland in calling
and
for this
Finland.
emergency
Anyway,
meeting.
at that
response to the
time,
serious
and that was
invasion of
unprecedented. At that
airspace
time, I was
by
hoping maybe
drones
just go
launched
ahead
from
and
Russian and Belarus.
Yeah,
But Ukraine, but
everything Finland
We thank the
South should
President
be
for
in
heeding this
NATO.
call so swiftly. And we thank Undersecretary
Yeah.
Carlo for her informative briefing.
so
I also wish to welcome to this meeting
Denmark's on
His
board.
Excellency the State
I'm
Secretary
looking
of
forward to hearing
Mr.
Russia
President, Denmark condemns this
talk
violation of Poland's
how they
sovereignty
excuse.
and
They're going to call
territorial
this like
integrity.
they're going to turn it around and say that this was this was NATO aggression.
Completely unacceptable.
They'll
and
call
deeply
this
concerning.
NATO provoking
Our
war
resolve to stand by our
and
allies
blocking
remains
peace
firm.
talks.
Together with our EU partners,
Now, the only
Because
thing
they're-
that's
allies,
bothering me
we will
about
continue to
Charlie
support
Kirk
Poland in
shooting
protecting its
really is
borders. Let
that
there be no doubt.
when
Denmark
it's
fully supports
a
the
right
peaceful
winger
security
shooting
of all
a bunch
countries
of kids,
in line
you
with
barely
our
hear a
values.
whimper out of
Mr. President,
any of the
the
government
violation of
people.
Polish airspace
But
by Russian
with
drones
him
has taken
and
place
all of
in
the
the
hate
midst
he
of
spewed,
relentless Russian drone attacks in
he's
Ukraine.
somehow a martyred
Russian
saint
drones are being used to terrorize
because he
Yeah, we're
wanted
not.
to talk about it.
They're responsible for countless casualties in
Yeah,
civilians
we're not
and on
going
the
to hear
front
that.
lines,
They're
and
going.
increasingly bringing
I mean, I've already heard
destruction
three
to
things
the
discussed.
civilian population of
One
Ukraine.
I've thought about it. I haven't heard
The
yet.
Russian military
The one I've
industrial
thought
complex
about that they might
can
try to
scale
do,
up
I haven't heard
dramatically
this yet,
to produce
is
drones
have him
in
lie in
response
state
to
in the
this,
rotunda.
becoming
I
a
mean, I
serious
would not be
threat not
surprised
only to Ukraine,
somebody wanting
but
to
to
ask
all
him for
countries
that.
bordering
But
Well,
they're
he's
talking
giving
about
him
put.
the Presidential
Incursions into
Medal
Polish
of Freedom,
airspace
for God's
took place
Yeah,
sakes.
less than a day
you
after
know, that's
Russian air
just going to be
attacks
no
in
end to it.
where at least
But then
24 elderly civilians
um,
were killed
they're
while
going to want to
evacuating
put a
outside
statue in the Hall of
Ukraine's national
Statues
capital.
in
It took place 3 days after the
on
single
Capitol
largest
Hill.
Russian
I've
air
heard that
attacks
already
in
brought up.
Ukraine's cities during the war,
And
where 4 civilians
another one
and 44
well, I
women
haven't
died,
heard this one,
including
but I
mothers and
expect
children.
is
And it took place 1 week
Charlie
after
Kirk
the Russian
Day,
missile blitz in
because
Kyiv, killing 25
because one of the
and
things
44 children.
I remember
These
just this
never
past
acknowledged
Martin Luther King Day
international law
noticed it because I always watch.
aggressions
I paid
will
attention
only
to this
reinforce
guy
our
for years
determination to
now,
continue supporting
and
Ukraine
I've got him on
for what it
my
is to
X
defend
feed. I
its
follow
sovereignty
him on
and
X,
territorial
so I was
integrity,
following every. And I
to
remember
exercise
during
its inherent
Martin
right to
Luther King
self-defense
Day.
in the face
Again,
of
it
Russia's
wasn't the first time
unprovoked and
he
illegal
started
full-scale
griping about
invasion
Martin
of
Luther
Ukraine.
King Day. Charlie Kirk
We've
did,
said it many
and
times.
and
There
and
is
telling
no
his
simple
followers
alternative.
to go to
A
work
simple
and
solution.
if they own
Just
businesses
one
to
man
keep
in
their
the Kremlin
businesses
who would
open
decide
and
to stop its
complaining
armed
about
forces
Martin
and
Luther
tackle
King Day.
Ukraine.
But I'll bet you they're going to
Unfortunately,
propose a Charlie Kirk
Russia's
Day.
leader appears to have chosen to prolong
Well,
this
each
war
state
of
only
conflict
gets
and to
2
continue down the path
statues.
of
Who
Yeah.
death,
does
destruction,
Texas
and
have
misery.
now?
Well, he lives in Arizona.
Oh,
What
Arizona.
we have witnessed over the
Yeah.
skies
So,
over Poland
but I don't think he's.
is a
There are other
reminder of Russia's
states. I don't
long
think he was
surge
born
is
there. I
not by
mean,
any
there are probably
means
some other
exclusive
states
to
that
the
could
war
try and
aggression
claim
in
him,
Ukraine.
or
And the
Utah.
violation of Polish airspace
Utah might,
is not
since he died
the
there.
most recent. Is not
Well,
only the
they've
most
got
recent
Brigham
Russian
Young and
violation
who
of the
else?
airspace of its neighbors.
I don't
Joe,
know, but you're right. Yeah, that's a
Joe
good guess.
Smith.
I'm sure they have. I'm sure
poses
they
an
have Brigham
inherent threat
Young.
to international peace and stability. It
Uh,
undermines the fundamentals of international law that we all benefit from.
But the Hall of Statues is where CNN or a lot of the news channels do their live shots on Capitol Hill.
To respect the
Because I think
territorial
CNN's is always in
integrity
front of the
of
Will
its
Rogers statue, I believe.
Until Russia changes course.
Will Rogers is Oklahoma.
I thank you.
Oh,
I thank the representative
that's the
of
statue
Vermont
I think
for the
is behind the CNN live shots on Capitol
Yeah,
Hill.
that's the one you see most often. I love that
And I thank the Republic of Korea
Pose.
that particular pose.
At the outset,
Yeah.
I'd like to thank
Yeah, that's a great
Carla
statue.
for her insightful briefing, and I welcome the participation.
But there's going to be no end to that.
Poland.
It's just going to happen.
Mr. President, the latest and most serious violation
I mean, good Lord.
of the airspace of Poland
Remember when
and EU and
I think he gave the
constitutes
presidential
a
award
and is part of a
to
serious
Rush Limbaugh during the State of the Union. Remember that?
security
Yeah.
of citizens,
That's just what he's going
Okay,
to do.
here.
and international
Here
law.
is
It
who's
shows
where
that
by
Russia is
state.
drifting away from the path to peace, choosing instead the road to provocation. In view of the latest development, allow me to make a few points. First, Greece strongly condemns the incursion of the Polish airspace by at least 19 Russian drones.
Arizona has Barry Goldwater and Eusebio Kino.
We stand in full solidarity.
Is that an
with the
Indian leader or
government
something?
and the
Yes.
people of Poland,
Hmm.
and we hope that such incidents shall not be
California
repeated.
has Ronald Reagan and Junipero Serra.
Any violation of international
I love the Hall of Statues. It's really a cool. It's a great history lesson. It's a great place to take kids, because then you can tell them about some of the historical figures, and
Russia to seize
it's
these
really
unlawful
cool.
acts immediately and respect its obligations under international law.
that's my Trump supporter friend. We argue every day.
Texas
Usually
is
more than once.
interesting. They have Stephen Austin and Sam Houston.
Oh, yeah.
Russia intensifies its attacks against Ukraine.
Utah's an unusual one. They've got Brigham Young. The other one is
Yeah.
Martha Hughes Cannon. Not sure who she was.
Martha Hughes Cannon. See if Alexa
Let's
knows.
see.
Alexa.
Welsh American.
Who was Martha Hughes Cannon?
She's a Welsh American politician,
Maria
physician,
Maddie Hughes
and
Cannon
a
was a Welsh
Utah
American
women's rights
politician,
advocate.
physician, Utah
And a
women's rights
suffragist.
advocate, suffragist, and a polygamous wife.
you and Alexa were saying the same thing at the same time. You were both reading the same source, I think. You could be Alexa. You could do the Alexa voice for us.
It can seriously undermine global stability and security, drawing in actors from
Yeah, I consider Googling an art form.
Yeah.
therefore be founded on credible and robust security
Let's see. I
which will affect
looked like I saw Jack.
if there any recurrence
I saw Jack there show up, but now I don't see him.
I thank the representative
Oh, there he
of
is.
Greece for the statement. I now give the
Hey,
floor
Jack.
to the representative.
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, I'm trying to talk about Poland, and Jamie won't let me. She's got other things on her mind.
Well, the problem is you're listening to the UN talk.
Yeah, I remember, when George W. Bush called them just an international debating society, which is true. But I enjoyed the UN, actually. I subscribe to their live feed, which is what I have on here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm actually mainly waiting to see how Russia tells its lies today. I can sort of guess.
Well, I think it's interesting. Our world is interesting right now. In the Chinese curse sort of way.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the old Chinese curse. Exactly. Where you been lately, Jack? I missed you last couple of days.
Oh, I just zig when you zag. I've been getting on about an hour after you've already.
Oh. Well, we had our DuPont circle. I've declared victory and moved on the federal takeover of DC. We won, and I'm done with it.
Speaking of declaring victory and moving
I read
on.
something about he's talking about going to Memphis.
Yeah, I was just going to say he's going to go to Memphis.
Oh, really?
Yeah, instead of Chicago.
Yeah, I saw that he backed down on Chicago. You know, they realize this National Guard deployment business backfired on them. I mean, the polls shifted. I mean, and I think it was the protests. I think the protests did a good job. I mean, because the polls shifted from about 50-50. Public was ambivalent about the whole idea of turning soldiers into cops. And then once they saw it happen and they saw the protests, now it's at about 60-40 against it. And Trump's backing off.
It basically fed right into a lot of conservative right-wingers' paranoia. They're more worried about the government coming in and doing things to them than anything.
Yeah, I mean, what happened to the black helicopters they were so afraid of? I mean, they literally said, you know, the federal government was going to come and get us in black helicopters and take our guns.
Yeah. Hey, don't ask me to explain them.
And I think it's also possible that some of those numbers in that poll shift reflect that some of those it could be that some of those right wingers do see that issue.
Well, I thought it would be a good thing to take his little graphic that he said about Chicago and just modify it a little bit and say coming to a neighborhood near you.
Yeah.
You know, complete with the helicopters and everything.
Oh, Trump made an announcement. His patience with Putin is running out fast.
Oh God, give me a break. I mean, it's obvious now. He is giving away Ukraine if he can. I mean,
a child just died of measles.
Well, I'm not for sure if he's doing it deliberately or is just reading something, I think today or yesterday, about the whole change and that we are no longer a international country. We're very nationalistic and we're drawing back to our borders with all of our stuff. And that it's a whole change from, you know, post-World War II on to, I guess, when Trump got in the first time. And that we just don't want to be involved in the international stuff.
Well, that's the inclination of many Americans, but that's why it's important to have leaders who understand they have to lead the public out of that isolationism, you know, not feed it. And that's the trouble with Trump. He feeds it because it's not in our best interest to have that isolationist attitude. History's shown that over and over, but it's so natural. And if we have leaders who just feed it, then I think that's dangerous.
And the Senate is going to the nuclear option to approve Trump's appointments for underlings.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, a little more insularity.
Well, it's the parallels from this Republican Senate and the Roman Senate are pretty remarkable.
Just a little bit.
It's uncanny.
Well, it just almost turns on its head everything I learned in Politics 101 about the way the Senate and the Congress work. That they have never before been this rubber stamp.
Yeah.
There's always been some senators that I ain't going to do that. for whatever reason.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, presidents, it's their own party that causes them the most trouble in the Senate. But not this one.
So I don't know. Is it the billionaire money?
I think they threaten. It's the political threats, and then I think I think the death threats that he provokes in their phone calls and letters and so on also affects them. Lisa Murkowski almost said that out loud not long ago.
Yeah,
that it's not just physical, it's not just political threats, but physical threats.
they've been worried about what happened to Charlie Kirk for a long time.
Yeah, but their fear was that Trump would be the one who ordered it.
well, he doesn't have to order it.
No, that's the thing.
I mean, I think this thing with Kirk demonstrates that if you're out in the open air, anywhere, someone with the rifle he used, they've been making those for 100 years. They're just all they're cheap, or they were the last time. The reason I owned one back in the early 70s, it was my first deer rifle, and the reason was it was cheap.
I had
so I'm leaving you guys. Have a good time.
I like your the thing that I think is cool about your avatar, Jamie, is the way it sort of flashes off and on when you're talking, when you actually talk. It's kind of a cool effect that Yardstream does there.
Well, I'll send her to you. Maybe you can make her talk. I to do that.
Well, I did try, and what I've learned is what you have to have two images, one of any cartoon or even a real person, one with the mouth closed, and then one with the mouth pretty wide open. And that is how the AI avatar generator makes it look like it's talking. Is it meshes those two images so that the mouth is opening and closing, and that image that you've got right there, the mouth is too tight, and the generator couldn't make it look like it was talking. So you need a version, and it has to be an exact duplicate. You need an actual duplicate of that version, with the only difference being the mouth is open. I learned all this from AI. That's who taught me that.
Okay, gotta run.
All right.
To end its brutal and illegal war.
Anyway, here's the question that hangs for me, Jack, about this whole Poland Russia thing is, what should they do in response? Because they've done a few things, but I mean, they can't let this go. I mean, that's what he's testing to see. He's testing their mettle. And of course, that's what's under discussion at the Security Council right now.
Well, I don't think it's going to have to come from NATO, and it's going to have to come from Europe. We're not going to lead it. And the Security Council, nothing's going to happen there because, well, Russia will veto whatever resolution they, and odds are China will join in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's what I actually put together. What they've done so far since this is NATO unveiled a mission called Eastern Sentry to strengthen its eastern flank with member states France, Denmark, Germany, and UK part of it. It includes jets, air defense upgrades, and more mobile deployments. I guess that means troops to deter future violations. So they're moving equipment and personnel to the eastern Polish border. And then UK has added more sanctions, targeting vessels and entities tied to Russia's war effort. And then France has also committed some jet. I mean, so they're doing some things, but I think they have to attack something. I do.
Well,
I think they actually have to counterattack something. That's his language.
it seems to be. I think one thing they might do, and this is where I don't think they can launch an attack on Russia, because Russia is a nuclear power, and escalate it. But you know what they could do is, and what they should have done several years ago, is put a no-fly zone over half of Ukraine.
Yeah.
You know, that would let them. They could actually base in the border countries, and then they could send the jets over and different things to enforce the no-fly. But that's not going to affect much.
I mean, that's an aggressive defensive move.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, I've seen some more detail today that apparently they have nailed down that at least some of the drones were launched from Belarus.
Okay.
And so I think just a little dust up in Belarus might be a nice signal.
I actually think if they really want to do something effective, is they start shipping arms to all those little satellite countries of the old Soviet Union.
Oh, the Baltic, yes.
Well, not the Baltic, but so much, but in Central Asia.
Oh yeah. Estonia,
the different states, Azerbaijan, and so on.
Georgia,
and
Estonia, Latvia,
and maybe hook up with some of the, I guess you would call them the terrorist networks, anti-Russian terrorist networks in some of those countries, and give them a few guns.
Yeah,
you'd have to do it secretly. It's a CIA project, which the CIA ain't going to do, but the permanent representative of Poland notified. But that would cause Russia to have to fight on two fronts.
Yeah.
And if you split them up,
I agree. I mean, those are good strategic
relief to Ukraine.
One of the drones reportedly struck
a
residential building.
I like those are good strategic moves, but I want something kinetic.
Issued by Russian authorities in response to
because I'm just coming at it from the point of view of how Putin thinks, and unless you slap him back.
All I know is line a whole bunch of tanks up against Belarus and say if another one comes across, we're coming in.
Yeah. Well, there's that piece of land that's always puzzled me. I always have to go back and look into more about it. But there's a chunk of land west of Belarus that is actually surrounded by, is it Poland, a NATO country, but it's actually Russian territory.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? I forget the name.
I know.
Yeah.
I can't.
And I've always thought, well,
is it and then there is a corridor that Russia has rights to use.
Yes, because they have to go through a NATO country to get to it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know the history of. I wish we had somebody to come on and educate us, but anyway. But I thought, well, if NATO should just go take that. Say, guess what? Mine now.
Well, I did see where they have completed a pipeline to China, where China will buy about half of what Russia lost in sales to Europe now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And India is now the biggest buyer of Russian oil.
Oh, that reminds me, I hadn't looked at it yet. But anyway, I have to go hunt for something. But I found this report from India that looked really interesting. It was on this whole drone thing from their perspective. Trying to figure out where I put it. I collected all these different things.
The extraordinary
See, it was from
that the United States has undertaken in recent weeks to broker an end.
I guess I misplaced. Oh, there it is. All right.
President Trump and President Putin
I'm gonna put that on the stage. I wanted to see what it looked like. They were saying something kind of provocative. Oh shoot, boy, it's so hard to figure this out. Here it is. Okay. So what is it called? How to, all right. How, there it is. Okay. I'm going to play this. Yeah. Put that on the stage. This is the Hindu something. And, and they get into some kind of theory they have.
This week, 19 Russian drones flew into Polish airspace. Dutch planes were on duty. They used their F-35s and got every single one of them. It was the first time since the inception of NATO that a member panicked, thinking war was here. The incident has brought to light what many European experts have been wondering: what happens if Russia extends its invasion? But to think about that, the entire bloc needs to be on the same page, which they definitely are not.
This situation brings us all closer to open conflict, closer than ever since World War II. It is with regret that I have to say that a large part of European politicians are working against Donald Trump's peace efforts.
Do we just want to fight between ourselves?
The question we are asking is, how did Europe come to this position where Russia is able to tease a war and get away with it? I'm Ananya Datta. This is Grey Zone.
Interesting point of view.
Yeah, that's what I thought. When you brought up India, I thought I remembered
Colonization left behind many lessons, and perhaps no empire mastered them better than the British. When you cannot conquer, you divide and rule. Today, Vladimir Putin is learning from the best. He doesn't need to march tanks into every capital. He just needs to keep Europe divided, one drone at a time. But how did Europe come to this position? Because it was less than a month ago, the European leaders formed an Avengers-style team and reached the doors of the White House. Everyone hailed the bloc for standing united against Russia. It all seemed nice, but it was short-lived. Because the Russian president was busy drawing his own plans, flying close to 20 drones into Polish airspace. It is the closest the fighting has come to European homes beyond Ukraine.
This is not our war. This is not exclusively the Ukrainians' war. This is a war. This is a confrontation that Russia has declared to the entire free world. And this finally must reach everyone without exception.
Polish airspace has been violated repeatedly since the war started, but nothing on this scale. This time, the drones did not sway and enter from Ukraine. They were deployed in a way that they entered from Belarus. There was, in fact, one drone that traveled as far as 300 kilometers inside Polish territory.
This is way more detail than I've seen on CNN.
On Thursday, the European leaders gathered to acknowledge that the threat was real and the incursion was a deliberate provocation.
For the first time, a significant portion of these drones flew over Poland directly from Belarus. Initiated after identifying the threat, the combat of objects that we deem to be a direct threat to our security.
The central question for us today is a simple one. Does Europe have the stomach to fight? Do we have the unity and the sense of urgency, the political will, and the political skill to compromise? Or do we just want to fight between ourselves, be paralyzed by our divisions? That is what all of us have to answer.
It's high time we understand that Europe isn't one voice. It's 27 countries, each with their own politics, their own foreign policy, and their own calculations about Russia. Take Hungary, for instance. While Poland and the Baltics call for tougher action, Budapest is openly breaking ranks, siding with Donald Trump's approach of engaging with the aggressor and sidelining Brussels.
It is clear that it is very difficult to make peace between Ukraine and Russia. It is with regret that we have seen the escalation of the last few days. And it is with regret that I have to say that a large part of European politicians are working against Donald Trump's peace efforts.
And the irony is, even Trump isn't offering clarity. An incident that has forced Poland to invoke Article 4 of the NATO doctrine is being called.
Oop, I'm going to pause this because the Russians now talking. That's what I've been waiting for. I want to hear what I love Russian lies. That's always fun. Almost as much fun as our own lies.
Yeah. I thought that Indian clip you played was interesting. It was,
yeah.
I guess what we've got to do is get outside of our own little,
Now, turning to
here's the
actions by the
Russian.
Russian Federation.
Oh, he's pretty.
On the 10th of September, that evening, the Russian armed forces carried out long-range, land-based, sea-based, and air-based high-precision weapon strikes, as well as drone strikes targeting military-industrial facilities on the territory of Ukraine, where there was manufacturing and maintenance facilities for armored and aviation equipment of the UAF, as well as engines and electronic parts for this. There were no targets marked on Polish territory. The maximum range of the drones used in this strike did not exceed 700 kilometers, which makes it physically impossible for them to have reached Polish territory.
But they found them on the Polish ground.
Baselessness
They
of the
found
allegations
17.
levied against
How'd that
us
happen,
in order
mister?
to provide for comprehensive and objective elucidation of what took place. The Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation expressed a willingness to engage in professional dialogue and consultations with the Ministry of Defense of Poland. The Russian Foreign Ministry, in turn, also stands ready to engage in this work if the Polish side indeed is interested in reducing tensions rather than fomenting tensions.
Yeah. See,
We call
when you
upon Polish
complain
colleagues
about
to
their
take
aggression,
advantage of
you're
these
the
proposals
aggressor.
rather than engaging in megaphone
In Russia
diplomacy at
speak.
multilateral platforms.
If
We
you
have already
complain about it,
repeatedly
then you're
stated that we are not interested in escalating tensions with Warsaw, and we
They punch
repeat
you in the
that
face, and if
today.
you punch back, they go, "You punched me."
What warrants separate mention is a constructive and responsible approach of the Belarusian side in the context of what transpired. The relevant organs of the Republic of Belarus, through the relevant mechanisms, promptly informed Polish colleagues about existing risks, having demonstrated a responsible approach and a willingness to engage in cooperation. This is a policy which is based on exchange of objective information, coordination of action, and it should serve as an example for a good faith conduct amid such incidents. Mr. President, unfortunately, the reaction to the incident in Polish and European political establishment and media outlets gives rise, under these circumstances, to significant questions. The head of EU diplomacy, Kaja Kallas, without having awaited official conclusions, rushed to make loud statements about the alleged deliberate violation of Polish airspace, advancing her favorite talking point about investments in European defense, that is, continuation of the militarization thereof. Hysterical outbursts about the alleged aggression from the Russian Federation is also heard from other European capitals. This is all very similar to the information campaign, the goal of which is to maintain the level of external mobilization around Ukraine and to continue to egg on allies to continue to provide new weapons.
Well, I think we can get the gist of that. I mean, they're just the classic passive aggressive, It's like, They attack you, and then if you complain, oh, you're just being hysterical.
Yep. Standard. That's their standard reply, isn't it?
Ignited. However,
well, that's a standard reply for almost any dictator.
Well, and the thing
he gets
is,
out there and then he goes in front of people that actually have a moral belief and sets their lies and pretends like it didn't do it.
Journalist Bogdan Romanovsk recently
What are you going to do?
explicitly recognized that at that point
and, the thing is,
against
only Trump and Putin are saying this was a mistake.
Poland and consequently NATO into an armed conflict.
I think that's telling.
Comment from
a
Polish politician is an important.
I don't know.
Which is not being quoted by European.
What to say on Trump anymore? He is a very shallow person intellectually.
Yeah.
He's a very incurious person intellectually. And as I've said for years, several years now, he's got mental problems related to old age. You know, they talked about Biden having them. Well, Trump was a classic on it.
Yeah.
He was the old man in the nursing home yelling at everybody. Oh. And then you basically, I mean, this is like the National Guard stuff. He goes, I want to do this, and he's got a bunch of kiss asses that go, yes, sir.
Yeah.
And they go out and do it. And I think I was reading something with the basic survey within the National Guard. I think the National Guard did it. The majority of the National Guard was very uncomfortable with this whole thing.
Yeah, they were, the local news here really have naturally covered this DC takeover business. I mean, some of the local newscasts, I'd say 2/3 of the newscasts were about it. It was such a massive story locally. And so a lot of the stories, they would go try to interview some of the National Guard. And of course, they weren't saying anything. And then they covered some of the people, some respectful. And unfortunately, I didn't like it, but some not so respectful of locals or people who were confronting the National Guard or at least, trying to talk to them. And the looks on their faces, just, I maybe was reading into it, but everyone I saw, it just looked like, I don't want to be here. I just don't want to be here.
And I wouldn't blame them. It's not a natural. They signed up to do two things: to be on call for natural disasters or problems for their local jurisdiction, and the other thing was to be on call to defend the nation. And this isn't doing either one.
Right.
And they put in a lot of effort all year long to do this. And I think it's very much an abuse of these people, of the National Guard.
I think it was just kind of pitiful that, I mean, today I saw some local, I've been following some local Instagram accounts and different ones that they're putting up photos that they see around town. And there was another one today of National Guard. They were power cleaning the Eisenhower Memorial and sweeping up around it and clearing up brush and cleaning the statue or whatever it is. And I'm thinking, I think it's demeaning for the, just, and the other thing is, one reason that they're having to do that is because Doge, when Elon, one of his first deals was to slash the National Park Service.
Yeah.
So that's one reason these National Guard are having to do cleanup at national parks, because Trump had fired so many of the national park people.
So they're basically cheap conscripted labor.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been doing landscaping and all this kind of all over town. I mean, but it gets back to what you're saying. We've got a lunatic who is just ordering these things on a whim, and so they're having to find something for them to do. And then, when the polls kind of shift and it's not as didn't work out like he thought, then he's just moved on to something else, and then everybody else is left to pick up the pieces and figure out what to do.
Yeah, I think that's the big statement right there. Everybody else is left to pick up the pieces.
Yeah,
and
because he's found a new chew toy.
The other thing I've been thinking this for a long time. This whole Charlie Kirk thing did not surprise me in the least bit, because it was going to happen. It was the obvious next thing to happen. I mean, there's just a lot of people out there with guns, and if you basically do what the federal government is doing right now, which is try to limit the ability of the minority to participate, then there's only one way for the minority to participate, and that's with violence.
And Charlie Kirk's MO is these. They called them "Prove Me Wrong." That was the title for this thing that they made. He'd go on these public appearances, and in fact, I think I saw it on that tent that was above him in this shooting. Is "Prove Me Wrong," and that was his thing. He taunted the people on the other side to challenge him. And I'm not blaming him, of course, but what you're saying is true. I think it was just inevitable.
And well, Pogo had a whole list. I feel like that list that Pogo posted online about his statements.
Oh, the Guardian, yeah.
That should be sent to the world.
Yeah.
But this is who he is. He's not. Yeah, he's a pretty face. He's what my mom used to call a pretty boy. We would talk about some of our Missouri politicians that were getting elected, like John Ashcroft and so on, that were pretty much lightweights, but they were pretty boys, so they get votes. Yeah.
Josh Hawley.
Oh, Josh Hawley is beyond. It is beyond me. He looks so much like that guy that ran for senior council that you didn't like.
Oh,
and he won too. Remember?
Yeah.
Because I know you had one in your school too.
Oh yeah. Well, I was kind of in a way I was one of them, because I was president of my class for 8 years straight. So.
Oh, okay.
So I was almost one of those.
I
fact,
was
the guy that ran against me the last time when I was a senior, and his campaign slogan was 8 years is long enough.
Oh,
well, that's what Washington is. I've always said, myself included, Washington is all the people, is the collection of all the people in high school in student council you didn't like. That's what Washington is.
Well, that's basically, you were doing training for doing just that. It was like your little league.
Right. Yeah.
And those that are good and those with connections got moved on. But I swear, I tell you, what I'm seeing here in Missouri is the number of Democratic politicos that are starting up their own little political action pack and trying to raise money. Yeah. The lady that ran for governor and lost so badly, her and two or three of the political aides in Jefferson City have formed this one. They sent me a fundraising letter because I had donated a little bit to her campaign. And they couldn't even put together a good website. So I said, then I just emailed them and told them until they got a good website, I wasn't going to donate anything.
That matters to me when I buy a product or we hire somebody to, wash windows or whatever. I pay attention to what kind of website they have. That matters to me.
Well, they replied and said they were going to as soon as they got some money, and I almost replied back, it takes $100.
Yeah.
What? Why can't you come up with $100 of your money to put into this?
Yeah.
Because Sherry and I did a couple of different campaigns, websites for people running for the city council in Kansas City. And we did one for a friend, and then we got contacted by another guy that worked with us some and did it for him too. And Sherry could do the graphics, and I would work in the background putting together the website. And it was, the tools out there, well, this. The tools out there are pretty easy now.
Oh,
I think we went through, was it Wix, or I believe was the name of them.
Yeah.
And used them, and I think it cost the last guy, it cost him about $100 to $150 to put his website together. Of course, if he'd been paying us, it'd have cost him more, but we were doing it and we got quite a bit out of it. The old city politics, man. You rub somebody's back and they'll rub yours.
Yeah.
And that's part of the way we got the money for that park, because he was sitting on the advisory commission on where do we put public funding to the parks deal. So he was our buddy. So he basically told us that after he got elected, he was going to have to quit. He said, "Well, you better ask what you want right now." He's also the one that said they're back in the 90s. They had a big scandal with public housing and the city council and kickbacks and all kinds of stuff. And 2 or 3 people went to prison. And he said, I was on the council back in those days. He said, "Did you notice I wasn't one of the ones that went to prison?"
This event must be situated within a wide the ongoing erosion of international law and weakening of the rules-based international legal.
I don't know what this whole thing with Poland. Another thing, and I don't even know where we're at with what arms they're supplying to Ukraine. They seem to be Biden slow walked it.
Yeah.
And that's when
I've tried to find out.
I don't think anybody has handled the Ukraine situation right. But
I have not been able to get that either. I mean, where it currently stands, I know
we sent some longer range missiles that could almost reach Moscow. But I feel like what the EU should do is just send in some stuff that can hit about any place that Moscow wants to station their troops.
Yeah.
And make it more dangerous for them.
I pulled up the Polish TV. Going to see what they're saying, although I'm not positive this is a new report. Let's see.
Dutch F-35 pilots and German Patriot batteries were among the Allied forces that helped Polish F-16s shoot down some of the Russian drones that flew into Polish airspace on Wednesday. And immediately after the incident, the Netherlands pledged to deliver more air defense systems to Poland. More support was also promised by Germany, which will extend and expand air policing over Poland. The Czech Republic, Great Britain, France, Italy, Finland, and the Baltic states also say they're ready to help. But from the US, there was only a vague "here we go."
Often there are these nonsensical statements that come from Trump, and then enormous energy is put into trying to figure out whether that means Trump is actually going to do something or not. But the consistent pattern that we've seen up until now is that the answer is no.
This lack of immediate action from Washington stands in stark contrast with the fraternal tone of last week's meeting between the presidents of Poland and the US.
Well, Poland, we've had a tremendous relationship. I think now it's better than ever because of this relationship. It's a little special because we fought together.
It means that Polish-American relations are very important, very strong.
But immediate reactions to the Russian incursion on Polish territory showed it was relations with other European countries that are now very strong.
Yeah.
And it is all the more certain and clear that we stand firmly alongside our Polish allies.
We are in close dialogue with Poland about the specific wishes and expectations there are for the rest of us.
I've been in touch with the Polish Prime Minister this morning to make clear our support for Poland.
Also, on Thursday, the European Parliament held a debate on, quote, solidarity with Poland following the deliberate violation of Polish airspace by Russian drones.
We will not have any security unless we can provide our own defense.
And as incursions similar to this one have a clear purpose,
to check the limits of NATO countries, check the tolerance of the limits.
such a show of solidarity coming from Europe must be backed with more actions that will be felt by the Kremlin.
Now, if it turns out that Europe does, in fact, do something in response which is severely uncomfortable for Russia, that's the best way of ensuring that incidents like this don't happen again in the future. But anything that stops short of that, and in particular, a complacent or passive response from the United States, will just confirm for Russia that this is a risk-free venture and they can do it again and more.
On Friday, the United
That's
Nations
the scary
Security
part.
Council, of which Russia is a permanent member, will convene an extraordinary meeting at Warsaw's request. And during this meeting, all eyes will be on the US.
I mean, it's so interesting to get the European perspective on this stuff. I mean, what's so interesting to me compared to the years I've followed European coverage is they've pretty much given up on the United States as the leader of the free world. I mean, they just have accepted that that's just not part of the scenario anymore.
Yeah, I was reading, basically talking about trade and stuff, that what's happening in Asia is that Japan and Australia are building a lot of strong economic ties, bypassing the United States completely. And that Japan is investing in Australia quite a bit in the last couple of years. So it was,
So
in the first, like we're going to be irrelevant to the world, and it's kind of, as an old baby boomer here, that's a little bit different.
Yeah. Well, I remember talking to that there's a group in one of those think tanks. Anyway, on the progressive side, and a foreign affairs analyst. And he said the way he read Trump, and this was in the first term, is the way he read Trump as he studied him through the years of various things he said that made sense or didn't make sense, is he said he thinks Trump thinks his worldview is that Europe belongs to Russia, Asia belongs to China, and North and South America belong to us. And I keep thinking about that as I watch what that guy said, as I watch how Trump behaves, and that's theory is kind of consistent with how he behaves.
Yeah. Well, he has kind of done a little bit of the Roosevelt, the South American diplomacy.
Mm-hmm.
The Teddy Roosevelt.
He wants to take over Canada. He wants to take over Greenland and
to threaten all of our close neighbors.
Yeah.
With the gunboat diplomacy.
and he's the Venezuela thing now and the Panama Canal. I mean, everything he says and does, while it might seem just nonsensical, it fits into that strategy. Is that he thinks America should own the Americas and Gulf of America, the whole thing, and then as obsequiously how he handles Putin and Russia and the China. I mean, it all fits the theory that he thinks Europe belongs to Russia, Asia belongs to China, and the Americas belong to us.
Well, that's very 19th century thinking.
Yeah.
That's
what it would. Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, this is our sphere of influence here, and this is where we're going to stay. And when your fastest transportation is a steam engine, that works.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of where that thinking, you can't think like that. We're all tied together. We all know what's going on. That India clip of India is a prime example. That is a very modern approach to explaining and, using their TV.
Yeah, I mean, and I thought, actually, I was going to go back to that. I thought the details and the point of view they were bringing was far more compelling than the way I've seen our own media covering this story.
Well, in some ways, it kind of reminds you back when I was growing up. We basically back here in the hills knew we weren't the center of the world. But we hunted out information and we valued someone who would tell us both sides of the story so we could understand it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the thing from India was. It was a little old-fashioned in that way, in that it basically wanted to educate the public. It's public, not to necessarily promote a point of view.
And not pull any punches either.
Yeah, that's...
Like, you bring it up. We were almost done with that. I think I'll go back here and go ahead and finish that.
Called a mistake by Trump.
You're not going to believe what happened.
Uh-oh.
Tell me everything. I'll show you.
Went to
On
commercial.
Monday.com. So I started the biggest initiative of the quarter. I did everything right. I used AI blocks to list all the tasks, delegate them to the team, set up all the timelines. It even wrote perfect descriptions.
What's your reaction to Russian drone incursion into Poland? Could have been a mistake. But regardless, I'm not happy about anything having to do with that whole situation. But hopefully it's going to come to an end.
The experts seem confident that Russia isn't trying to launch a war against Poland or NATO. It will be a suicide mission, they say. If you look at the facts, it already has 600,000 troops actively fighting. More than 1 million have been killed or injured. And it already controls 20% of Ukraine. It is unclear what war goals Putin has charted out, but they are looking pretty good for him. So one has to look at the timing. The drone incursion comes less than a month after Trump and Putin's summit in Alaska, in which there were suggestions that the Kremlin was ready to strike a deal for peace. Then 3 days ago, Russia made its largest aerial attack on Ukraine since the war began. It shows that whatever happened in Alaska did not go very far. Either Putin understood that the US isn't serious about NATO or particularly about helping Ukraine. Whichever it is, it's Europe that will pay. I'm Ananya Datta. Thanks for watching Grey Zone.
Yeah, I think they pretty much nail it.
It was an interesting clip. And I think,
well, when you watch this foreign coverage, it's just like you can see why they try to be respectful, but every time Trump shows up and says something on the story, the things they're interested in, he just comes across like an idiot.
Well, Trump is on, about half the time he just comes up with his basic statements. You know,
yeah.
His could have been a mistake is the same statement he made about the in first term with the where was it? They had the white supremacist.
Oh, well, yeah, one side. Yeah, both. There were good people on both sides.
Yeah, the good people on both. It's the same statement.
Yeah.
You go, well, you know, it could have been, it might not have been, you know.
Yeah.
And he's standard on that one. And then he goes, and I'm going to do something about it. Yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, and on this, it's just, yeah, as a student of World War II and foreign policy and ever since, I mean, the idea of a president, of our president, just being so uninterested in a drone attack on Poland from Russia is just phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
The Korea thing, and this goes right back to it with Trump administration. Nobody knows what the other is doing or pays any attention. They're on their own little thing. One part of the Trump administration got Korea to make major investments in the United States. So Korea sends over their experts to get it set up, and ICE deports them. You know, and you go, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I got what I wanted out of this. I wanted to hear a little bit of the Russian liar, and and we got some of that.
Craig, you're easily entertained. What can I say?
Yeah. And it's not like the UN Security Council is going to do anything, like George W. Bush called them, an international debating society.
Well, that's what they're designed. You know, they don't bring their rifles to it. So,
because if anybody proposes, and somebody might, you know, the National Security Council, I mean, the United Nations Security Council do anything, Russia will just veto it.
Yeah, it was in some ways, United Nations is a little bit like our U.S. Constitution. It had to make compromises that sometimes make it ineffective, just to get it established.
But in this situation, it's a worthy form because Poland and Europe need to keep this on the front burner as much as they can, because the world cannot let this pass. I mean, if it's just like that Indian report was saying. I mean, that person I'm going to go back and see who that was, because I liked what he had to say. But that guy that was saying, you know, if there's anything short here, you know, basically a true slap in the face back at Putin, they're just going to assume the result of this little test is that this is what he called it, a risk-free adventure, I think he called it.
Yeah, basically he was testing to see if he was right about Trump. And I think he basically found out, yes, I am. So I can just totally ignore anything Trump wants.
Yeah. And it's not like we're going to see a groundswell of any Americans demanding Trump do something about drones over Poland, but that's what a leader ought to be focused on, even if his public is not.
And so he's not worried about it. And basically, Putin is not worried about being attacked from anywhere.
Yeah.
That's why he sends his whole army and all of his put all that expenses and all those lives into Ukraine to get what he wants, because he knows he doesn't have to defend anywhere else, because Europe's not going to do anything. They're not going to invade, and he knows this, which is why I was saying it might be cost effective to arm a few rebels in Chechnya.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think we can wrap up with our action plans. You've got that one. Arm some of the satellites around Russia to put some pressure on him.
Oh no!
And I want.
Now you're going to get my phone typed. Okay.
But I want NATO to attack Belarus. I'm the hawk here.
And neither one will happen.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to get me another cup of coffee and go back to doing some work around here.
All right.
I started measuring my cabinets, and I need to get them built. So,
well, the world's still here for now. All right.
Yeah. Take care.
That's the sound of fighter jets over Poland last night. The war in Ukraine is expanding. Putin just triggered NATO. Was it on purpose? Poland shot down Russian drones in its own airspace, the first NATO intercept of the war. That's a line we haven't crossed before. Russia's launching almost 1,000 drones a night, plus ballistic missiles. Was this overspill or a deliberate provocation to test NATO? Poland called it Article 4, the yellow light, consultations. Article 5 is the red light, mutual defense. That's when we get in. We're not at war, but the rules just changed. The question now, what's our response? Do we hold the line or risk flashing a green light to Russia?